Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a bit of a different path, diving into this really intricate narrative world. It's all about courage, community, and, well, the surprising ways animals organize themselves in this place called the Great Field.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're looking specifically at a corner of Oklahoma, the Great Field, the forest, the swamp, and it all kind of centers around this one small, really tenacious Scotty dog named Buttons.
Right, buttons. And this isn't just, a simple animal tale.
Not at all. The source material we've got paints this picture of a complex, high-stakes animal society. They're under this constant, almost existential threat. We're talking serious interspecies diplomacy, psychological trauma, even like military coordination.
Wow, okay. So our mission for this deep dive is, I guess, to really peel back those layers. We want to understand the social structure that keeps them alive, right?
Exactly. And look at the psychological weight of this constant conflict, especially on Buttons herself. And maybe most importantly, map out these incredible, sometimes pretty desperate alliances they form. That's what sustains them against these really cruel enemies.
Makes sense. So let's start with Buttons. Tell us about her.
Okay, Buttons. She's your classic Scotty in some ways. Enthusiastic, determined, incredibly focused, black coat, stout legs, that tireless energy. But the thing you'd notice first, the most defining thing about her physically, it actually comes from this deep trauma early in her life.
You mean her tail?
Exactly, her tail. Most Scotties, they hold their tails high, like a bold black flag, the sources say. But Buttons, hers is carried low, tight against her. It's described as ugly and twisted.
And that's because?
Because she was attacked by this huge group of rats, the Great Horde, when she was very, very young. It broke the tail in several places. And this isn't just a cosmetic detail in the story. It's this constant physical reminder of the main threat she and everyone faces.
So it's tied directly into her character, her drive, maybe.
Absolutely. It fuels her tenacity, her focus. She carries this literal physical scar of the enemy's cruelty with her all the time. And her world reflects that danger. It's vast, the open great field, the deep, shadowy great forest, the unpredictable river running, and then there's the great swamp.
Which sounds pretty treacherous.
Oh, it is. Dark, dangerous, and often where the enemies, especially the rats, tend to hide out.
Okay, so she's facing all this, but not alone.
Right.
You mentioned alliances.
Right. She's got a core partner, her best friend Sally. Sally's a brown and white beagle, and they're this perfect duo, really complementary, almost like two sides of the same coin when they face danger.
How so? What does Sally bring?
Well, Buttons has that laser focus, that fierce determination to track things down, to engage the enemy. But Sally connects them to the wider community. She's got this really energetic, high-snapping tail. They call it a crack-the-whip tail. It's kind of like a symbol of her own unbroken spirit. And critically, she has this piercing bugle call, a real beagle bay. And as we'll see later, that call becomes the actual signal for, total mobilization when things get really bad. It rallies everyone.
So Buttons and Sally are the core. But you mentioned a whole society. To really understand how this world works, how it survives, we need to look beyond the dogs, right, at the intellectual structure, the politics.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe the best place to start there is with the character who seems to represent wisdom, maybe even moral constraint in this world, and that's Sesseric the rattlesnake.
Or rattlesnake, okay. Unexpected.
Right. He completely subverts what you'd expect. I mean, physically, he's terrifying. The sources describe him as massive, a powerful diamondback. His head apparently sways a full foot above Buttons when he's just resting. That gives you a sense of his scale.
Huge.
Huge. But his presence is described as calm, synthesizing, almost like a mediator, Though his way of talking can be a bit cryptic, sometimes laced with this dark humor.
Okay, so how does Buttons first interact with someone like that? I imagined a Scotty meeting a giant rattlesnake.
Oh, it's legendary. The sources say she just jumps right on his back.
No way!
Yeah. And then proceeds to critique his coloring, asks him super bluntly why he doesn't have legs. Just a complete audacity.
And Sesseric doesn't.
Yeah.
React badly.
That's what's so telling about him. It shows this incredible self-control, this sort of philosophical depth. He can rear up to his greatest height to emphasize his presence when he needs to, but he rarely chooses violence first. He seems more intrigued by Buttons' sheer nerve.
And you mentioned humor.
Yeah, there's this moment where he makes a pun about his rattle, muttering something like, I am rather attached to it, and Buttons calls him out on it. This is a little moment of levity that kind of cements their weird, unlikely friendship. He sees past her cheekiness to her courage.
And he has some kind of moral code.
A very strong one. He makes this pact with Buttons early on. Never use teeth in anger or to intentionally hurt. Think about that. For a massive venomous snake, that's a profound limitation. He's basically setting aside his ultimate weapon.
Why? How does that work in such a brutal world?
Well, that constraint seems to be the very source of the respect he commands. People listen to him not because they fear his bite necessarily, but because they respect his wisdom, his judgment. The sources show him contemplating these big abstract ideas. He talks about the beginning.
The beginning. What's that supposed to mean?
It seems to refer to maybe the chaotic origins of their world, the sort of primordial struggle for existence that defines their lives. But later he starts contemplating what he calls the greater mystery, she.
She. Capitalized like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's mentioned quite a bit, almost like this ongoing philosophical quest for him.
Any idea who or what he is?
Well, initially it feels like it might be fate, or maybe the life force itself, something unknown. But as the narrative unfolds, it seems pretty clear it shifts focus to a character who arrives later. Princess Sarandra, the littlest dragon.
A dragon. Okay, things just got weirder.
Right. Cesaric, with his ancient wisdom, seems to sense her arrival. He senses this, truly magical, disruptive force entering their world, something that operates outside their normal rules. He's tracking the mystical element coming into their very grounded, earthy reality.
Fascinating. Okay, so Cesaric provides the wisdom, the moral compass. What about, practical strategy? Information.
For that you need the information network. And that's primarily run by two key figures, Miss Lucy the Sparrow and Rarebit the Frog.
A sparrow and a frog. Okay.
Mrs. Lucy is described as magisterial, very proper, focused on decorum, almost comically so, given the often brutal stuff she deals with. Her job is pure intelligence gathering. She commands this incredible aerial network.
What kind of network?
Birds, lots of birds. Jays, woodpeckers, blackbirds, even hawks. They give her continuous, high-level surveillance. Eyes everywhere, especially over the Great Swamp, which is super dangerous and secretive.
Right.
That's where King Rat often holds up.
So she's got the big picture from the air. What about Rarebit?
Rarebit's the ground-level guy, or, well, water level, I guess. He's a frog, and he's basically their cartographer and logistician. The sources say he's somehow put together complete plans and charts of every nook and cranny of the Great Swamp.
That sounds incredibly dangerous for a frog.
Think about it. Navigating submerged logs, hidden trails, avoiding gators and snakes and who knows what else, all while meticulously mapping the enemy's territory. It's amazing.
So what connects Mrs. Lucy and Rarebit? Do they get along?
They share this keen wit, this ability to spot threats. They often have these sharp, almost biting conversations in the sources. They don't necessarily seem like best friends, but their work is perfectly complementary. Lucy's macro view from above, Rarebit's micro detail from below. Together, they create the intel picture the community needs to anticipate attacks.
Okay, wisdom, intel. What about sheer power? Muscle.
Right, because sometimes knowledge isn't enough. Sometimes you just need brute strength. And that brings us to the powerhouse allies, starting with Biff the bear.
Biff the bear.
Yes, sir.
Sounds straightforward.
He is, in a way. Large black bear, described as jovial, maybe a bit overstuffed, and yeah, kind of clumsy sometimes. There are mentions of him accidentally sending Iggy the ground squirrel tumbling, or easily catching the dogs when they try to sneak past him.
So what's his role in a fight?
He's the wall. Purely a massive, immovable physical barrier. The rats apparently use tactical formations when they attack.
Formations.
Yeah, coordinated charges. And Biff is the one who stands in their way, just this huge obstacle. But there's a catch. The source material specifically mentions he's short-sighted.
So he needs guidance.
Exactly. He's got the raw power, but he needs clear direction. He relies on others, even the dogs, to tell him where the threat is. It adds this layer of vulnerability, makes the teamwork even more crucial.
Interesting. Who else provides muscle?
A completely different type of strength comes from Miley the moose. He's described as patience incarnate and the largest of all the deer species there. His specialty is what the sources call ground-eating strength.
Ground-eating? What does that mean?
It's cool terminology, right? It seems to refer to his unique ability to just power through the swamp landscape. Where dogs or smaller animals get bogged down in mud, roots, hidden sinkholes, Milo, with his long legs and sheer mass, can just push through the toughest terrain.
So he's for a fence then?
Yeah, seems like it. He's essential for things like tearing saplings out of the ground to clear paths, or more importantly, for breaking up those big coordinated rat formations that use the swamp for cover. If Biff is the defensive wall, Milo is more like the mobile siege engine.
Makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
bear, moose. Any other major allies?
There's one more really key figure, though his alliance is complex. That's Delph the alligator.
An alligator working with dogs and bears. How did that happen?
Well, Delph's backstory is crucial. He was apparently formerly caged somewhere, so he arrives lonely and just perpetually hungry. That explains his initial aggression towards Buttons and Sally. He even admits it, saying something like, "My stomach ominously growled in disagreement when they first tried to reason with him." He was just driven by pure survival instinct.
How did they turn him?
Ironically, by trapping him. The dogs actually led him into a nasty trap, a rusty trap with teeth, the text says, and got him secured by a stake.
Whoa! That seems counterproductive.
You'd think, but then they had to rescue him. They risked their own safety to free this creature that had been trying to eat them moments before. And that moment of dependency, that act of mercy, seems to be the turning point. It integrated him into their defense system.
So what does he do for them now?
He becomes this vital part of the swamp defense. Unlike the energetic dogs or the massive bear, Delph offers silent, long-term vigilance. He can stay submerged on logs for hours, just watching, waiting for enemy movement. His position right there on the water is strategically irreplaceable. He guards the waterways.
Okay, so this is a seriously complex web of alliances.
Uh-huh.
And it all exists for one main reason, right? The rats.
Exactly. All this coordination, all this fragile trust, it's all built to counter the primary conflict, the threat from the Great Horde, led by King Rat. And the sources are clear. These aren't just nuisance rats. They're characterized by evil hatred, real cunning, and this lust to kill and destroy. They are the absolute definition of cruelty in this world.
And facing that constantly, it must take a toll, especially on Buttons with her history.
A massive toll. We talked about the broken tail, but that trauma runs deep. It manifests in these recurring, very specific nightmares she has.
Tell me about the nightmares. What does she see?
They're really vivid in the descriptions. She's running endlessly, but not actually moving anywhere, which speaks volumes about feeling helpless against this overwhelming tide, right?
Yeah.
She's surrounded by this soundless wind, bushes swaying around her. It captures that feeling of an unseen enemy closing in, silent and menacing.
It's chilling.
But the worst part, the image that really stands out, is this vision of unblinking, whirling red eyes completely filling the sky. It suggests the rats aren't just numerous, they're omnipresent, an astronomical threat in her subconscious, not just individual creatures, but this overwhelming force.
Oh, wow. And that ties directly back to her tail being broken.
Directly. Her tail was broken in several places by rats very early in her young life. It's not just an injury, it's described as leaving it ugly and twisted. It's a constant mark of shame, of vulnerability that she has to fight against every day. Her battle isn't just fighting rats physically, it's this internal war against that deep-seated fear.
And the leader of this horde, King Rat, what's he like?
He sounds terrifying, described as large, gray, and having this pervasive, horrible smell, dead and moldy. His key feature seems to be his eyes. Glittering, evil, red eyes that are always calculating, always planning.
How does he control so many?
Through pure cruelty, basically. The source material mentions their cruel language, which suggests it's not just insults, but a whole system of communication built on fear, dominance, threats of violence. It ensures absolute obedience. He's not a leader inspiring loyalty. He's a dictator ruling through malice.
And he has allies, too.
He does. He knows how to delegate, especially when it comes to vengeance. There's this secondary antagonist, the Raven of Elderwood.
What even?
Yeah, described as cunning, cruel, hobbling on a crooked leg and a broken wing. Maybe injuries from scavenging too aggressively. It's not entirely clear. But his motivation is purely personal revenge against Buttons.
Why Buttons specifically?
Apparently, Buttons almost caught him on the ground feasting at some point. Just a moment of humiliation for the Raven, but he magnifies it into this burning hatred. He actively plots with King Rat, trying to figure out how to lure Buttons to Elderwood, away from her powerful friends like Cessaric or Biff, so they can enact some kind of slow, painful revenge.
Jeez. Okay, so the threats are constant and calculated. How does the community actually deal with specific problems? You mentioned coordination.
Right. Survival depends on it. Flawless coordination, often involving serious risk. There's a great example in the sources called Operation Trap Dismantling, carried out just by Buttons and Sally.
What were they dismantling?
A trap set by a human trapper. He's described as mean, someone who even beat his own dog. So it highlights that rats aren't the only danger. Humans pose these calculated threats too. And the way Buttons and Sally deal with the trap is almost like, well, engineering.
How'd they do it?
They used a stout tree limb as a lever to spring the trap's jaws safely, but the timing had to be absolutely perfect. If they messed up, the limb could snap up with enough force to seriously injure Sally's muzzle because she was the one holding the stakes steady. It shows this incredible trust and synchronization between them.
That's intense.
But it gets worse. The tracker was clever. After they successfully disabled the main trap, they found he'd set a secondary trap, hidden near the stake, specifically designed to catch anyone tampering with the first one or trying to pull the stake out.
Oh, man. Did they trigger it?
Buttons almost did. It apparently snapped shut scant inches from her tail, and the text notes her reaction is this grim joke about her tail already being short enough. It just shows how they live constantly on the edge, inches from disaster. Only their methodical approach keeps them alive.
Okay, that's small-scale problem solving. What about big threats? Like a major rat attack?
Well, that leads us to the Great Rat Battle. And it's triggered by Sally's muster call, that piercing bugle sound she makes.
What prompted the call? How bad was it?
It sounds absolutely critical. The rats were apparently attacking young animals, stealing eggs. They'd almost completely overrun a specific dark corner of the swamp. It was reaching a tipping point. If the community didn't respond immediately, they might lose that whole section.
So Sally sounds the alarm.
And everyone responds. Total mobilization. Otters, beavers, muskrats, deer, Biff the bear, coyotes, foxes, woodchucks, groundhogs. All the clans arrive. And it's not just a mob. It's described as a coordinated military response. Each species seems to have a specific role.
Like what? Give me examples.
Okay, the sources mention the deer and the peccaries working together to create this literal wave of bodies. They moved as one fluid force to break up the rats' tight formations. They were like the initial shock troops.
Wow. And Milo the moose?
He was the game changer in the swamp itself. He just stormed into the water using that ground-eating strength. And get this, the text specifically notes he used his massive antlers, which were still covered in the fuzzy velvet from spring, to just sweep masses of rats up into the air.
The velvet helped?
Maybe. Instead of slick bone, the felt might have provided more friction, more surface area to actually catch and toss the rats out of the water. It was this combination of his size, his unique ability to move in the swamp, and even that specific state of his antlers that proved overwhelming for the rats there.
That's incredible detail. These alliances get tested in other ways too, right? You mentioned a white Mustang rescue.
Yeah, that event is huge. It's significant partly because it introduces Sarah, Princess Sarandra, the dragon we mentioned, but also because the stakes involved rescuing this potent symbol of freedom, a young white Mustang colt. The rats had attacked the herd, even partially crippling the colt's mother.
Oh no. So how did the rescue work? Sounds complicated.
Incredibly complex coordination. Involved former adversaries, totally different species. The first major problem was the colt's own herd, the stallions. They were so enraged by the attack, they were about to just stampede blindly into the swamp to save the colt, which would have drowned them all.
How did they stop them?
It took Cesaric and Delph working together, Cesaric rearing up out of the water with the sheer intimidating presence of Delph the alligator right beside him. That was enough to stop the stallions cold. Pure psychological intimidation. It shows how their presence can be as important as their physical power sometimes.
And Buttons. What was her role?
She was basically the field commander, setting up this multi-pronged strategy, assigning roles based on unique skills.
Like how?
She sends Pip, the hummingbird unmatched speed and agility, right, to find Elmer, the St. Bernard, specifically because Elmer is a strong swimmer. Then she pairs Elmer with Rarebit the frog, because Rarebit knows every inch of the swamp and can navigate Elmer through the dangerous maze to reach the colt.
Wow. Hummingbird, St. Bernard, frog, working together.
Exactly. It's this elegant piece of strategy. Size doesn't matter. Function is everything. Using precisely the right tool for the job.
These tactical stories are amazing, but you mentioned earlier that the source material goes deeper into emotional complexity.
It really does. And maybe nothing shows that shift from simple adventure to something more profound than the whole arc involving Mommy Kitty.
Mommy Kitty, who is she?
A thin, tabby cat, perpetually pregnant, living rough. And this story it's a tough one, real moral ambiguity. Buttons' initial actions towards her were driven purely by anger. Mommy Kitty had mauled Buttons and Sally pretty badly.
Okay, so Buttons saw her as a threat.
Yeah, exactly. An intruder. She was determined to destroy the cat's den, planning to just dig the hole into nothing, obliterate it. She was operating from this place of, justified anger after being attacked.
That something changed her mind.
The reality she found inside the den just stopped her cold. She finds this litter of 4 tiny nursing kittens. which is sad enough, right? But the real gut punch is discovering the shriveled bodies of two more kittens right beside them, ones that had died days before.
Oh, wow.
It's this moment of terrible revelation. Mommy Kitty herself is gaunt, coughing, clearly struggling, and she admits to Buttons, "This is not the first litter I've lost." Buttons suddenly realizes the cat's aggression wasn't malice, it was sheer desperation. This threat was actually a victim fighting this hopeless battle just to keep her kittens alive.
So what happened then?
Well, Buttons, Sally, and Iggy the ground squirrel actually managed to persuade the cat to move her remaining kittens somewhere safe to the house of the old couple who sometimes feature in the background. But the real story here is the emotional fallout for Buttons. Overwhelming guilt and grief over her own initial cruelty, her persistence in harassing the cat before she understood. She goes back to the empty den alone. And the source material says she silently digs one more time until the hole collapsed.
Burying it.
Exactly. It's this powerful symbolic act. She's not just filling a hole in the ground, she's deliberately burying her own guilt, her own capacity for that kind of cruelty, destroying the site of her own moral failing.
That's heavy.
And right after that, she lets out this sad, wavering howl, a lament. Sally joins in, making it this shared expression of grief. It wasn't a tactical loss they were mourning, it was a moral wound.
Does anyone else witness this?
Cesaric appears. His presence there is so important. He doesn't judge, he offers comfort. He recognizes the universal weight of what happened, saying something like, "It is never easy to be the unwitting cause of grief or death." His empathy validates her pain, but also reinforces the community's high moral standards, even when anger feels justified.
Wow. Okay, from that deep moral complexity, you mentioned a dragon. Let's switch gears entirely. Princess Sarandra.
Yes. The littlest dragon. Talk about unexpected complexity. She literally drops into their world a lost, weeping dragon cub with transparent wings. Completely out of place in Oklahoma, right?
Completely. What does she bring to the table, besides being, a dragon?
Power. Almost overwhelming power. Her breath isn't just fire, it's described as massive bursts of fire and gas. And the text even links it to her diet. She needs coal and charcoal briquettes to fuel it. Biff the bear apparently raided someone's shed to keep these supplied.
Okay, that's wild. Does she control it?
Not at first. There's this chaotic incident, the pilot light incident, where she accidentally chews some coal and just belches this tremendous blast of fire and gas. It frazzles Iggy's whiskers, sends friends tumbling. It's chaos, but it proves her power is real.
But there's more to her than just fire breathing.
Oh, yes. That chaotic power comes with this absolutely critical ultimate gift. Immediate magical healing.
Healing, how does that work?
It seems almost miraculous. This completely changes the odds against the rats, whose bites often lead to infection and slow recovery. First, Sarah heals Iggy after King Rat gives him this moral slash. Just a single lick, and the wound closes, the bleeding stops instantly.
Incredible.
But the most dramatic example, the heroic measures, comes later, for Sally. After that attack planned by King Rat and the Raven in Elderwood, Sally was badly wounded, pinned down, left to bleed out slowly as a warning.
So how did Sarah save her?
This is where it gets really interesting, the mechanism. Sarah had to fly Sally up to extreme heights. Altitude she probably didn't even know she could reach. The idea was that the bitter, intense cold up there would help congeal the blood, stabilize Sally enough so Sarah could then cleanse and magically heal the severe wounds properly.
Using the environment with her magic.
Exactly. It confirms Cesric's whole intuition about Seishi. Sarah is that mysterious, powerful force he sensed. Her ability to combine natural elements like extreme cold with her innate magic to reverse near-fatal injuries. It's a force for preservation the rats just cannot match with their cruelty.
So this leads to a final confrontation.
It does. King Rat and the Raven, they finally succeed in luring Buttons and Sally to Elderwood. They did it cleverly, sending a blackbird with confusing, contradictory reports to Cesric and Delph to split the dogs from their heavy protectors. The Raven's plan was to wait until the dogs were exhausted from struggling through the swamp terrain, then strike.
And they attacked Sally.
Yes, and it was deliberately cruel. Pinned her with ropes, even wrapped her toes individually to maximize pain. It was meant to be a slow, agonizing spectacle to break the community spirit.
Horrible. How were they rescued?
It took some desperate close quarters fighting. Toby the Bobcat and Cross-Eye the Tomcat, usually loners, were forced to fight alongside Buttons against waves of rats. Buttons herself taps into that deep, ferocious, rat-killer instinct of her breed, just taking out King Rat's minions in the water.
But was it enough?
She was about to be overwhelmed, but then Sarah arrived. and her intervention was decisive. She just unleashed these great clouds of fire and smoke down onto the massive rats, driving them back with pure, terrifying energy.
How did King Rat react to seeing a dragon breathe fire?
He was forced into retreat. He saw this power he couldn't explain or counter. The sources say he recognized her game-changing power, but in his final resentful thought as he pulled back, he refused to even acknowledge her name or title. He just referred to her as she or that creature. He's beaten for now, but that hatred is absolute.
Did he give up anything?
He was forced to. Part of the deal for his retreat, seemingly brokered under the threat of more fire, was that he had to reveal where the White Mustang cult was hidden on the island. He was literally cowed into compliance by the dragon's power, a complete strategic defeat, even if the personal animosity burns hotter than ever.
So after all that violence, where does the story leave us?
It culminates in this long, quiet walk home. The adrenaline fades, the cost settles in, and Buttons finally curls up against Sally, who's safe now, and just murmurs, "No more nightmares, Sally."
Yeah.
It's this moment of temporary, fragile, hard-won peace.
Okay, so let's pull back. We've gone through the society, the threats, the magic. What's the main takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the central lesson is pretty clear. Survival in this great field world hinges entirely on radical alliance, not isolation. It demands recognizing and, crucially, utilizing everyone's unique skills, even if they seem disparate. You need Cesaric's philosophical wisdom, Miss Lucy's intel network, Milo's brute ground-eating strength, and, yeah, even Sarah's sudden world-altering magic.
And it's also about individuals overcoming their own stuff, right? Like Buttons and her tail.
Absolutely. It's about taking personal trauma, that defining vulnerability, and somehow converting it into relentless tenacity. And maybe most importantly, it's about forging bonds, even with those who started out as enemies, like Delph. The world is just too dangerous to rely only on your own kind or your own strength.
We definitely saw the need for ferocity. That muster call, the wave of bodies, Sarah's fire. Violence was necessary.
No question. Coordinated violence is a key survival tool for them. Yet right alongside that, we saw these profound, really difficult moments of mercy. Think about that communal lament after the Mommy Kitty incident. Or Sarah's healing, not just patching wounds, but reversing the rat's cruelest intentions for Sally and Iggy.
Right. That's the core tension, isn't it? The story ends with that quiet moment, Buttons feeling safe, saying, "No more nightmares." But we know King Rat is still out there, nursing his hatred, referring to Sarah only as she. The threat hasn't vanished.
Not at all. It feels cyclical.
So given that cycle, given the inherent violence they face, the calculated cruelty of the rats, where does the real resilience of this community actually lie? Is their strength ultimately rooted in their ability to fight back, their capacity for organized defense, and yes, violence?
Is it ultimately sustained by something else? That unexpected, difficult capacity for mercy, for healing, for connection, the things shown by Sarah, by Cesaric's wisdom, even by Button's grief, which seemed to fundamentally change the rules of the game.
Does survival come from the fight, or from the moments they choose not to fight like their enemies? That's definitely something to think about. And that's where we'll leave you until the next deep dive.